Hello, friends. Hello, friends. A tradition unlike any other.
Oh, my goodness. In your life, have you seen anything like that?
There it is! Adam Scott, a life changer. Mashed potato!
Here it comes.
This is the 19th T podcast. Kieran Marsh, Nathan Drudy back with you. Not just any episode, though. Drewster, my friend, we have finally cracked the double ton, episode 200. You'll notice a few things. I've gone back to the OG T-shirt, the first run, the original T-shirt. I thought would be a nice little nod to 200. And in honor of 200, I've also got 2 beers tonight because I thought maybe we could be here for a little while. Just the one for you. That's okay.
Yeah, I don't have any more in the fridge.
Wow. There you go. It could be time for a re-up from our great friends at Gage Roads Brewing Company. That's a great segue. We'll probably just crack open the first one here for me.
I think so. Let's do it.
WA's craft premier brewery, named after the strip of ocean between Rottnest and Fremantle. So, Drudes, remarkable, really. I'm sure we'll take a trip down memory lane very shortly to think that this is episode number 200. As we've been spruiking ad nauseum across the social channels, we've thrown this episode over to the listeners, submitting questions on anything, golf, and plenty of non-golf related questions, which is great to see. So we're going to get to those, and they will dominate the significant portion of this episode very shortly. But a few quick things to cover off at the top. I couldn't have asked for a better present for our 200th Druids. My man, Jordan Spieth, gets it done at the RBC Heritage. Plenty of people with egg on their faces, not least of which the 2 co-hosts of this podcast, who as recently as the week before, when he missed the cut at the Masters for the first time and was stone motherless last in strokes gained, teeted green in the second round, said we could be on the slippery slope back down again. Lo and behold, a week later, he takes, I think it's his 12th or 13th win on the PGA Tour.
Yeah. Look, I think there was not just you and I, many people in the golfing world have been analysing this new swing, this new feel that he's got going. Look, I still think all of those questions are valid. I mean, the form line leading into the win over the weekend, and it does feel a little disingenuous that we're not giving this the full love it deserves, because we both adore the man greatly. But the form line leading in was horrible. There was no doubt that he deserved all the wax that he got. So for him to come out and shrug all of that attention off of the golfing media and walk away with the win, albeit in a playoff against another guy who you tipped last week, I think was he your roughie or want to win or whatever it was?
I wanted Patrick Cantlay.
So a couple of your guys, and of course Cam Davis storming home in the final round as well, was in the lead for a little while. So it's Jordan Spieth wins again on Easter Sunday, and I'm sure, as every other bastard said across the last 48 hours, Easter Sunday next year falls on the Masters, and he's won 2 Easter Sundays in a row. So chalk it in.
Chalk it in. Can we do? I've done the long range Open Championship bet for later this year. Can we do a long range Masters for next year? We shall wait and see. So Jordan Spieth, the winner again, in not convincing fashion, but I mean a pretty decent final round, 2 incredible eagles, and then birdieing the last to get himself into a playoff and birdieing the playoff hole to win in one. So a very decent Sunday from Jordan Spieth. Drew's a bit of news as well, closer to the home front. Melbourne. Now, I thought this was interesting, right? Because the city of Melbourne, not necessarily the course Royal Melbourne, but the city of Melbourne confirmed as the host of the President's Cup in 2028 and 2040. So the PGA Tour is certainly leaning into PGA Tour being the body that runs the President's Cup, certainly leaning into the USGA's format of announcing venues years in advance. I think we're up to like the 2050s for US Open hosts being announced for the USGA. But yeah, great news for Melbourne, 2028, 2040. They'll host the President's Cup. You would think that Royal Melbourne would be a front runner, but I did find it interesting that they didn't nominate a course. There's plenty of great options down there. So I'm pretty certain 2028 will be Royal Melbourne, but it'll be interesting to see, over the course of time, what opportunities present themselves for courses like Kingston Heath, Peninsula Kingswood, to name a few. And even maybe some further afield down the peninsula. So, yeah, it's a great announcement for Melbourne. Put on such a good show in 2019. It's coming back.
Yeah, three-time hosts of the President's Cup, and I was on the ground and saw it firsthand. It was exceptional. I think it's a no-brainer to take it to Royal Melbourne. I think that if Australia hosts at Royal Melbourne is the only option. I know that we have some fantastic courses, but it would be ludicrous of us not to showcase our highest ranked course on the international stage on the only opportunity that we have currently that coincides with the PGA Tour. So I agree with you. 2028 will almost certainly be Royal Melbourne, and 2040 I would suggest would probably be that as well. But that's some 18 years away, Marshy. And just off the back of President's Cup as well, Jeff Ogilvy named and a captain's assistant for this year's President's Cup at Quail Holiday.
So Trevor Immelman has named his assistants. I think it was Jeff, Mike Weir, KJ Choi.
That's a good one.
I love KJ Choi. And was there a fourth one, or was it just the three?
I think there was a fourth one, but I can't remember it. I think they're going to be pushing shit uphill. I reckon the US team is putting together.
Looks pretty stacked. Looks reasonably stacked. Scary. It's interesting that they called in the announcement. They called Mike Weir the pride of Canada. Obviously, from a golfing perspective, I'm not necessarily thinking they're suggesting more broadly, but not disputing that now. I wonder what the threshold is for, say, obviously, Mike Weir a major winner from memory. Is that the threshold for, say, a Corey Connors? Is it one major? Is it two? What does he need to do to become the pride of Canada? I wonder.
Well, who's the pride of Australia? There you go. I'll throw a question to you.
This wasn't one of the listeners' submitted questions. Look, Kari Webb, probably. I think it's probably a fairly comfortable one because there's no. I think anyway. We've said it before. She's the out and out goat of Australian golf. No doubt about it. But yeah, there's no one who jumps out to me. Like I don't think you'd say Greg Norman, particularly not recently. Oh, goodness me. And then you can probably throw a blanket over, Scotty, Jason Day, more recently, Leash and Cam Smith. So yeah, I think it's probably pretty comfortably Kari Webb if we were to nominate one pride of Australian golf. I'm just looking through here. Sorry, just to nominate the fourth captain's assistant. It's Camilo Villegas.
Oh, how do we forget?
Yes, Camilo. That'll be fantastic.
I look forward to every member of the international team reading greens in the old spider grip thing. Yeah, that was sick. Loved it.
Be fantastic. So that's great news for Melbourne. Who knows what number episode we'll be up to in 2040? We might even be there. We shall wait and see. Druids, on a slightly more serious note before we get into the questions portion of episode 200, some sad news, particularly for Australian golf in the past week, with the very sad passing of Jack Newton. Now, if you follow golf in this country and you don't know Jack Newton's name, you haven't been paying attention. I thought it spoke volumes of the man that the overwhelming response from the Australian golf community, from people his own age right through to people coming through the ranks now, the legacy that he leaves and the platform that he's provided through the Jack Newton Academy, through the golf events, just the sheer amount of people who said I wouldn't be where I am now without the influence of Jack Newton from an Australian golf perspective. It reminded me a lot. Neil Danaher, the former Melbourne coach, and of course, just champion man now with his battles through motor neurons. He gave a speech a couple of years ago to the Melbourne Football Club on the eve of the Big Freeze game against Collingwood, and he had this famous line. He said, "When all is said and done, more is said than done." And I just thought, when I heard about Jack's passing, I thought of that because there's a lot of people who are passionate about golf in this country. There's very few who turn that passion into tangible action and outcomes in the way that Jack did in his life and leave a legacy that will live far beyond his name and his years. And yeah, I think we lost a giant of Australian golf in the past week. And whilst it's very sad, I think it's at times like this you should take a moment to acknowledge the contribution and celebrate all that he did do, rather than focus on the fact that he's no longer with us.
Yep, very well put, Cam. I mean, you only have to go back through the episodes of this podcast and how many people have said, we asked them a question, how'd you get into golf? And, I picked it up at the age of 5 or 6 and then got into the Jack Newton Jr. series. And it's a countless, we've heard it countless times. So, lost a true great of the game. And the outpouring was certainly a plenty across social media from golf lovers and just general journos and sport journos anyway. So,
and just very briefly on a similar note, Drudes, overseas, I'm not sure if you saw this, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Shirley Spork, who was one of the 12 founding members of the LPGA Tour, died this past week at the age of 94. So obviously a different story to Jack, but if you've not read the story of the 12 founders of the LPGA, and I'm just thinking on the spot here, it could be a great deep dive for us to do on the 12 founders and I suppose the founding principles and founding few years of the LPGA. But if you just cast your mind back to where more broadly the women's movement and how women were treated back when the LPGA was founded and what these 12 women would have endured, particularly in a stuffy game like golf, and to see where that tour has grown to now. And yes, we say it often, it deserves far greater coverage and far greater pay parity. But to see the legacy that Shirley Spork and the other 11 women who founded the LPGA have left similar, it's something that will live far beyond their own years. So the outpouring similarly again from American golf community upon Shirley Spork's passing was broad. And I think she is a woman who's left an indelible mark on the game and deserves to be acknowledged with her passing this week.
Well put, Cam. Well put.
Okay. That will probably do us by way of news. Settle in. We got some questions. So obviously we much like we did in episode 100, it was important to us because I think contrary to popular opinion, this is not just two idiots jumping on a Monday or a Tuesday, or in this case a Wednesday evening of the week and recording a podcast for the sake of it. It certainly started that way, I think it would be fair to say, but it has, and not to, try to overstate, but it's grown a little bit of a following and an engaged audience who we appreciate a great deal and certainly love ever so often to hand the reins over to. So in the spirit of what we did 100 episodes ago, episode 200 is all about you, our listeners, and the opportunity and the platform to ask us a question, any question. We didn't put any sort of scope on it. We got some great submissions, Drudes. We did say that the best question, as judged by the two of us, will be taking home a pair of sunnies, thanks to our great friends at Oakley. So we will announce that. I don't know, maybe we'll announce it as we ask that question, but we might hold till the end. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how the mood strikes. But I think the way we're going to do it is I'm going to nominate a category because they fall under a few distinct categories, the question submitted, and you're going to ask the question.
Correct.
So for the benefit of our listeners, can you run us through the categories we're selecting from tonight?
Sure can. So we have 4 categories. We got about 30-something questions from across the social media channels. So we've got personal golf related. So that's to do with your and my
golf.
And your golf. Yep. Non-golf related. So just other random stuff that people have asked us. Golf related, whether that's PGA, whatever, just general golf. And then stuff specifically about the podcast. So they're the 4 categories. So
okay,
you're going to pick from there, and then I will pick out a question from it. So I'll throw to you.
I think let's start off with personal golf related.
Okay. Let's go with this one to start. At Warwick Ahern 00 submitted a few questions. I like this one. Have you put into the Masters ballot before?
I wish. So to my understanding, and obviously we've spoken to Evan Priest, because it wasn't Benny Everill, was it? It was Evan Priest. Benny Everill, of course, the Aussie writer for PGAtour.com, has put his name in several times, and I don't think had the pleasure of being drawn out, but Evan Priest has. So for those unaware, the Masters ballot to which Warwick refers, media who cover the Masters each and every year put their names into a ballot, and a certain number are drawn out to play the course the Monday, the day directly after the final round. So it's tournament conditions. Nothing's packed away in terms of infrastructure, grandstands, facilities. It's like you're playing the Masters. There's no one there. So no is the short answer, because you have to be attending media, and we are a little, not a lot, Drews, but a little ways off accreditation from Augusta National Golf Club. I would have
I think
thought
we're a long way off.
Yeah, we need to work on getting accreditation to the Australian PGA Championship at this race.
Didn't even get a look in at the Pro-Am out at the WA PGA, and I would have thought I'm getting a look in at the WA Open next week either. And I've seen some people that were playing out there in Kalgoorlie, and it's interesting. So, but anyway,
fascinating. No, so the short answer is no. We need to get to Augusta first and get into that media centre, but in terms of golfing dreams, there's not many that rank higher than winning the media ballot to play the day after the final round.
Yeah, and even just generally attending the Masters, right? So there's the media. There's the media ballot, but then the ticket ballot as well. As I've never put in for that. I don't know if you ever put in for the general ticket ballot.
No.
I think that would just also be like winning the lottery in a lot of ways. So I think if I was going to Augusta and going to the Masters, I would certainly buy a package deal to ensure that I have guaranteed entry. That's the way I'd go about it.
It's a bit chicken and egg, right? Because obviously I don't think I'd put into the ballot from a ticketing perspective until such time as I genuinely I'm committed. I'm buying flights. I've planned out, and if I don't manage to jag a ticket, I still have some sort of holiday around it where I'm going over to the States. But it's also like, maybe I need the impetus of getting a ticket through the ballot to actually pull the trigger and book all of those things.
Yeah.
So I imagine I've always had in my head this pipe dream of maybe for my 40th, I'd go to the Masters. So that's 6.5 years away at the moment. So yeah, look, we'll see where we are, but yeah, I just love to go. We're fairly evenly split on our favorite major, and I'm still pretty firmly in the camp. I'd love to go to an Open Championship, but I don't know. There's something romantic for me about Augusta, and whether it's just watching or getting the name pulled out of the media ballot, I'll be happy to just get my name called anywhere.
Next category.
Let's actually stick with personal golf related. I like that as a start.
What were your first handicaps from PK Plays Golf?
This is probably going to be a pretty boring answer because it was. I think it was just as high as what it can be. Now that's shifted. To be fair, obviously because the handicap system changes with the wind seemingly at present. So I think when I first got a handicap, it was 25. Now, obviously, you can go a little ways north of that now, but 25. And look, not a lot of fluctuation for me. Obviously, it's dropped a little, but I've had this discussion plenty just through lack of volume. It's not moving a great deal for me, and also probably the older that I get and the fewer time I get to spend on the course, my focus and my priority out there is a little different than driving the number down, which may answer a couple of other questions that we have. But yeah, 25 for me was where I started. You, Dreads?
So when I first got a handicap, I was playing golf quite a lot at one course.
Love that.
And had some really good scores, had like 5 really good low to mid 80s. And so when decided to bite the bullet, get a handicap and submitted those cards, that gave me a very low number of like 11 or 12. But I think that often is what happens when you play one course over and over, is that you become a bit of a bully on that one course. So after about 6 months of realizing that was not my true handicap, the handicap company who I have my handicap with got in touch and said, we probably need to do something about this because you are just getting beaten up, essentially. So it got recalibrated to about 20 odd, and that's pretty much where it is now. It hasn't really moved. I think it got down as low as 16, and then not practicing for a while and all that just blows it back out very quickly. So I find it very easy to have numbers added to your handicap, but very hard for them to come off after a while.
Good call. Let's go golf related.
Okay. I like this question. Really like this question from @Morgan Herkett. Played Brisbane Golf Club yesterday. Rounds are always 4/4.5. I'm going to assume that's hours. Why can't more courses do this?
It's a wonderful question, Morgan. Wonderful question. Now, I know full well that they keep you moving out there at Brisbane, but that's as it should be, and that's for context for people not in Southeast Queensland. It's a very popular golf course. It's a members course, so we're not talking like shifting thousands there through a day. And there are courses that certainly see more volume in Brisbane, but it's not empty, and they don't struggle to put people on the tee box at Brisbane. So they've obviously found a formula that works. And I've seen a couple of different things. One of the more recent ones I've seen is the system, and this probably must be nice, not walking, but the system in the buggy that shows you your expected time and how far behind you are, which I also don't mind. But I mean, if Brisbane Golf Club have solved the answer to slow play, they'd be doing well to patent it and sell it to the world, most notably the PGA Tour, I would have thought.
I think the simple answer is it's a private club. I would argue that that more often than not, people who play, if you were to do a sample size of people who play at a private course versus a public course, their handicaps would be significantly lower, which means less time looking for golf balls, etc. And I don't want to shit can on public golf here because I'm one of them. There's a couple of key ones I think that really delay things for me. One is not having a course marshal. Heaps of public golf courses don't have course marshals keeping people on top of play. Second one is not having a starter or just announcing what time people should be at the tee. I see that very often. I mean, like Wembley Golf Course, one of the busiest public golf courses in the country, they never announce over that, this group needs to be on this tee at this time. And it makes such a massive difference.
Reigns.
Yeah. And thirdly, and probably the biggest one, is people playing from the wrong tee boxes. Now that's easily, if there is only one tee, then that's it. But again, using Wembley as an example, they've scrapped men's and women's tee, and they've now got a front, a middle, and a back tee, and that's based off your handicap, and that's again an honour system as to whether you want to play to that. But I've played out there a few times since they introduced that, and it's made a massive difference. I've seen people playing off that front tee who are just getting used to the game, and just that 5-10 meters makes such a massive difference. It doesn't seem like it would, but it really does. So they're probably the three key reasons for me. And ultimately, it's going to be very difficult for slow play to ever be abolished at public golf courses, because we want to encourage people who haven't played the game or don't play the game to come out and have a go. And unfortunately, when you're learning, you are going to be slower because you're not going to hit the ball as far, you're not going to hit the ball straight. It's as simple as that. So I think patience is a virtue when it comes to golf sometimes.
100%. I think pride is also your enemy in the game. I think there's far too much pride in people walking around. Well, probably any course anywhere in Australia that isn't at a bare minimum a state PGA championship level. Like if you're not there, then you ain't getting there. So appreciate what your 4 hours on a Saturday or a Sunday or a Wednesday are, and they're not shifting the needle, and they're not putting you on the Champions Tour. So
yeah, that's correct. So next,
let's stick with golf related.
I love this question. I'm going with two big ones from the very top. From @Sykes.Clinton. with the distance debate, what's the max distance we want the pros to hit the driver?
Is it too cute to say it's already too far?
Well, I think that's evident. But is there a number? Is there a magical number that we say, we want? This is where we want it to get to.
I think it's difficult because you got to talk in averages, right? Because there's variables week in, week out, weather, conditions of the course. We've seen, to me at least, viewing from the comfort of my couch, firm fairways are in vogue where possible at the moment. Certainly in the last 6 months, a lot of stops on the tour are firming up their fairways in particular. So obviously roll comes into that. Ultimately, am I interested in seeing guys bomb it 370, 380 off the tee? Not overly. It irks me a little that we've had a course like Augusta National who've had to add distance this year. And if you look at the Google Earth maps, are constantly buying up property and clearing it behind existing holes, and a bit of future planning and future proofing. Ultimately, Drew, it's like you don't take anything away from the athlete, right? And a golfer is very different to what a golfer was 10 years ago, let alone 15, 20, 30 years ago. Markedly different, and they're a different body type, they're a different athlete, and that's had its contribution to distance, but it pales in comparison to the advantages found through science, technology, in the ball, in the club face, especially the driver head. And I don't know, it's becoming increasingly obvious to me that there is seemingly no downside to bifurcation and just paring back the professional game, because the companies, in terms of your apparel and your equipment companies, they're not going to lose their money because people like you and me are still buying clubs that let us hit as far as we humanly can. But it preserves a little bit of sanctity of the game at the top level, because the further we go, it does not, let me be unequivocally clear, does not make the golf better.
So to answer Clint's question is, what's the maximum distance we want people to hit the driver?
I don't know. I find that, it's arbitrary. I don't think you can say, yep, Clint, I don't want drives going any further than 350 yards, because it's entirely contingent on course, setup, layout, conditions. What I would say is I want driving distance to remain consistent with what is sustainable for our courses. Courses can't and simply won't continue to lengthen. Like, that's going to narrow how many are available to play PGA Tour events at, right? And majors for that matter. And some of our most historic and treasured stops, particularly for majors, will become obsolete. So my answer is not a number. It's distance cannot outshine the sustainability of our courses. And right now, it's kind of like poking its nose through and needs to be pared back. So I don't know if that answers Clint's question. If they're hitting it at an average 370 at the moment, then if you want a number, maybe it's an average of 340, 350. We shave 20, 30 yards off.
Well, a tour average right now is 296 this year.
Oh, well, there you go. What's the problem?
So, but it's interesting because 22 years ago, 2000, the tour average was 272. So you're talking 24 yards different. The last time that we had a year where the leading driving distance player on average, the last year that was under 300 was 1998, and that was John Daly. So it's a really hard one for me to answer, because I kind of almost think it's like there is no answer. There is no number that exists. We can't say like, oh, we consistently want the tour average to be under 300 yards, because like, I don't know, like it's the purists and the traditionalists of the game go, oh, well, it's shit to see Augusta look at how it was in the 70s, and like players hitting 3 irons into 15 and all this, and how good was that? And yeah, it was great. But also in the 70s, they were going and having 16 beers after the game and half a pack of cigarettes. Like, they weren't the athletes that they are now, right? So I think like the game and every sport just moves so dramatically. You look at any sport, look at cricket bats, right? The size of cricket bats is here in the modern times compared to go back to the 70s. They're just incredible, right? So I certainly understand the whole point for rolling it back, but like, I think bifurcation is the very, very simple answer. Part of me also goes, let's just keep it going. Like, let's just get a ball that fucking goes like 400 yards and turn every par 4 drivable. And then we'll find some people who take it on and some people who won't. Mm-hmm. Why not? Just like at the Olympics, just let them all take drugs. They're probably all on it anyway.
Wow. Opening a little can of worms here, I would have thought.
Do it. Anyway, I don't know. There's no number, right? There's no number. You can't sit there and say we need driving distance to be 300 every week.
That number that you've thrown out in terms of the average driving distance on tour has floored me. But no surprises to regular listeners. You are the numbers man. I would not have thought it was under 300 yards. So I'm also conscious of not being over indexed on our reaction when the field appears to be around about or just below 300 yards.
Yeah.
But there's certainly a portion, and I'd love to see the correlation between anyone who averages below 300 yards and wins. That would be because, there's a lot of guys that maybe drive there. Not many of them are actually having an influence on the tour. And I think that's the issue, right? So,
well, it's interesting because I'll give you the leading driving distance players this year. I'll rattle off the top 10. Cameron Champ leads the way, 321. Johnny Vegas, Wyndham Clark, Cameron Young, Matt Wolfe, Joseph Bramlett, Luke List, Trey Mullinax, Brandon Hagee, Taylor Pendrith. And then at 11 is John Rahm. He's the first real name that jumps out. Ricky Fowler's at 13. Gary Woodland's at 14. So the first...
Fowler's at 13.
Yeah. So Johnny Rahm at 11 and then JT at 16.
Right.
Koepka at 19. So there's not like really... I don't know. It's a real interesting one. And of course, the catalyst for change has been Bryson in the past 3 years, right? And rightly or wrongly, he's forced an issue with the tour. And I think, that's certainly in part to do with the way that in the way that the technology has advanced, to your point, drive ahead and ball more specifically. But also he went on this journey. He identified that if I can hit the piss out of the ball further than everyone else, statistically, I'm going to have a better chance of winning golf tournaments. And I think the argument to that is that even if we introduce bifurcation and roll the ball back, then he's still going to be 20 to 30 yards ahead of most other players, if that's what the numbers show, and they don't right now. But if in his mind, that's what he's thinking, right? So regardless, if we're rolling the ball back for if we're rolling the ball back for all, essentially the driving distance numbers will still be the same in terms of leaderboard, not physical driving distance.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't want to go down too much of a rabbit hole here because Bryson, irrespective of what you thought, felt, saw, and I was highly critical on this podcast of it, he's completely vindicated because he went on and won a major. And it's an impossible question, but there's nothing to suggest to me prior to that he was going to win a major. So he went away and did something that fundamentally provided him with a stronger chance, and he ultimately went on to win a major championship. So completely vindicated. Now you fast forward another 12 months, and where is he now? He's had the last probably 2-3 months riddled by injuries. Now gone in for surgery on the hand. Now, I'm sure there's more nuance to it, but the simplistic version would look at that and say that was bound to happen. Bound to happen. Now, as I said, I'm sure there's a lot more detail. The conversation's more nuanced. It has to be, but like, if he doesn't get back to that, and you have to think that through atrophy and surgery and kind of like he's never going to bulk back to where he was. Sure, he's always vindicated, and sure, he might always hit the ball further than everybody else. But if everyone's rolled back 30 or 40 yards, then how important is hitting the ball the furthest off the tee? I think that it makes the rest of your game far more relevant, far more important. And we will see, ultimately he'll be viewed in a very small group of people who truly changed the shape of the game because a rule was made to combat him. And as I said, irrespective of where you think he is, and there's people who would say, "Oh, I told you so." Who cares? The guy's completely vindicated because he won a major.
Yeah. And I think like this is kind of where I net out on the frustration with Bryson is like, I don't actually feel like it's like, oh, fucking Bryson, like this is his fault, like it's, him hitting the ball further than everyone else has caused this issue. And it certainly has, like, don't get me wrong, it certainly has. But in my mind, he saw it's not even a loophole. He just went, I'm going to get bigger and stronger and hit the ball further than everyone. And statistically, when you look at it, if you hit the ball further than everyone, even if your accuracy is less, you will still gain shots on the field. That's just what the stats show. And he's seen that and gone, that's what I'm going to do. And the results showed. I think he won a major on the US Open. I think he won Rocket Mortgage that year.
I feel like it was another 2 tournaments on top of the US
and he's
Open.
done some great stuff for the game. So like I get the hate, because that for me is separated in the sense of like all the bullshit that he does as a person on social media and all of that weird crap. But from a pure golf perspective, it's like anyone else in any other sport going, I need to get bigger, faster, stronger so that I can be better at my sport. And I feel like the golfing public has gone, you're a tit. Like you've ruined the game. You've ruined the game. And it's that, to me, is completely unfair because the anger shouldn't be at Bryson.
Let's be clear. The two aren't mutually exclusive. He can be a tit and it can absolutely not be his fault, which is where I land. He absolutely is a tit. And it's by no means should you direct your anger at the distance revolution at one guy, because and I'm glad you pulled yourself up and didn't call it a loophole, because a loophole suggests that you've used some unsavory means to exploit something that isn't necessarily forbidden but frowned upon. This wasn't. This was a complete blind spot for the tour.
He went to the gym more than other people.
Exactly. And the tour didn't even consider it. It was like, no, it's just golf. Why would people just rack up and go to town in the weights room? They're not going to do that. Yeah. Well, he did. And that you should not be angry at him because of what he did. In fact, you should thank him if you are. That's the irony, right? Because the people angry at him are the people who should thank him, because he's ultimately going to force a change. You can also think he's an ass. So 100%. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
I've long thought that we should do an episode called the Bryson Debate and just go back and forward for an hour and a half and just debate Bryson, because and the crazy part is that like even the people who have great disdain for Bryson, and they exist out there, what he has done for the game in the past 2-3 years has been extraordinary. From the cringy videos that get people talking, like he's created a character that people want to watch, and ultimately #grow the game, right? And I think he's absolutely done it. It's been quite phenomenal, actually. But anyway, should we move on?
Please.
Next question.
Non-golf
related. All right. I want to get this one out of the way early. Dane M. Study, would you have slapped Chris Rock or laughed? Really thought hard about putting this in there or not.
Oh shit! Do you know it's funny? So you sent me the link to where you had collated all the questions, and I kind of gave him a browse. So some of these are coming at me blind. Look, probably neither.
Yeah, that's my answer.
Probably neither. Because similar to what I just said before, you can be of the opinion that the joke was in very poor taste, but also think that physical assault is not necessarily the answer.
Correct.
It's funny, like where I wash out on it is, if he had done everything that he did, minus slapping him, like if he'd sat in his seat and yelled out what he yelled out, then it's a story, but he becomes a person who, has made a stand in defense of his wife and done so in a way that people think is relatively reasonable. But I don't know, he loses all credibility because of what he did. So I think somewhere in the middle would be mine. I don't think I would have laughed at the joke. In pretty poor taste to make a joke about someone who's been on the record about her struggles with alopecia as a disease and has tried where she can to embrace the struggles that come with that disease, and just go, and like Chris Rock's not unaware. There is history there between him and the Smiths. So the joke was in poor taste, but yeah, the response was, if you lower yourself, and he didn't lower himself to the joke, he lowered himself far below that.
Correct.
So no,
I think if you go back and look at like when Ricky Gervais hosted years before that, some of the things he said were way worse than what Chris Rock said.
Do you reckon it's because he's English? People just go, Ricky.
Probably.
Good one.
Quite possibly, right? But if Will Smith hadn't got up there and slapped him, for starters, like I questioned why did he slap him? Like, close the fist and
push him,
go the fist. So at least punch him if you're gonna have a go. Anyway, but like,
it was all weird. I mean, the Oscars in itself just fucking weird. And
honestly, I genuinely could not care less about that entire thing. Like, my thoughts on movies and TV shows. I watch the same 6 TV shows on repeat. I've seen 15 movies in my whole life. I could not.
Concerns me a little, but that's fine. Yeah,
I did see King Richard though. That was outstanding that he was in. That was it? Yeah, really, really good. So
okay. Well, also a shame that it's a great story. The story of Richard Williams, and clearly a great movie and clearly a great performance. And no one cares anymore because
they don't.
He slapped the guy. Anyway,
next question.
Let's stick with non-golf related.
This question got asked in a couple of different places from Adam Suter. What are your day jobs?
Cheeky.
Do you know Adam?
I don't know Adam. No,
I don't know Adam.
No. So
sometimes we text each other. For those people listening, sometimes we get comments and we text each other and go, "Do you know this person?
Do you know this person?" So look, Adam, what I'll say is I'm not going to tell you my exact job, because I think I said this to you. I said this to you. Yeah, well, I think I said this to you right when I saw a few of these coming in. There is a little platform, you may have heard of it. It's called LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's got a search function. If you jump onto linkedin.com and you hit the search bar and type in someone's name, you'll generally find them. It's literally an online resume. So, but look, I'm in the media and communications field. Is probably what I would say for in sport as well. I think I'm prepared to go that far.
Yeah.
Media and communications in sport.
Yes.
This would be an interesting one for you to answer because you're transitioning
jobs. Yes. Yes. Look, I was in a similar. So for people who don't know the context of how this podcast started, we need to rewind.
Are we answering another question?
I don't know.
I think we might be. we work together. I think that's enough for you to kind of talk about your work now, and then we can talk about the genesis of the podcast later.
What made you? No, we'll leave it. We'll leave it. Oh no, okay. We'll transition to it. So in the podcast related questions from at Will Bayless enjoying the pod, lads. What made you start the pod? I love strong opinions. So the way the pod started was that we met through work. Circa 2016. 15 it was actually, yeah.
August 2015.
It was.
Hell of a night.
Wasn't it? One of the great stories.
Nathan and I, so I was starting work on the Monday.
Yeah.
And there was an awards night for work on the Friday evening.
Yeah.
I just recently moved to Perth. When I say just recently, I moved there on the Wednesday. So 2 days before. Never been to Perth. And the HR manager said, we'll get you along to the awards. I think it'd be a fantastic opportunity for you to just get to know a few people, break the ice a little bit before, walking in on Monday so it doesn't feel like the first day at school. I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. Proceeded to have one of the all-time sessions. Certainly broke the ice, I think it would be fair to say. Hell of a night. And then,
there's a great photo. So I was running the social media. So at the time, so Marshy was brought in to oversee media and communications, and I was looking after digital marketing at the time. And I was running social media on the night and got stuck into a fair few, but had preloaded all the tweets, all the social media stuff.
Obviously.
I'd done it. It wasn't my first rodeo. I'd done it before, so
obviously.
And then, there's one of the great photos of you, me, and our general manager at the end of the night, which will never see the light of day, other than for the three of us. But it was fantastic. Anyway, fast forward from there, you move back to Queensland. We start chin-wagging about golf. I think this love of golf had always sort of been there. And then we kind of, that meme that goes around, that's going around at the moment, it was like, oh, should we start a golf podcast? No. But should we? Should we? No. Anyway, one thing led to another, and it was born. The 19th tee was born. I think over a couple of beers, we came up with some name and a logo, and anyway, all of that sort of stuff. So, anyway, to answer two questions at once,
that's what we do.
Yeah. So I have been in that same organisation for 7 years across a few different roles. Took over Marshy's role when he went back to Queensland. Then moved into corporate partnerships for the last few years, and now I'm moving across to a new business in sort of mining, civil, government contracting across a few different areas in terms of safety, people, and equipment hire. So it's a bit of a complicated one, 3 divisions, but yeah, that's probably where I'm at. What made us start the pod? I don't know. Have you got a good answer to that question? Because I probably
look, I've I don't know if it might be a lie to say I've often thought about it. I've occasionally thought about it. And I think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, I think ultimately, and it's grown bigger than this, obviously, but I still feel like the reason why we started it is the essence of why we continue to do it. And that's just that we enjoy the opportunity to sit here and talk to each other for an hour and a half a week.
Yeah.
And I think the only thing that's changed for me is the increasing level of surprise that other people are interested in what we might be saying. So I think that, like as you said, like I moved back home to Queensland, and obviously we'd gone from working together every day to not great mates, and just said, well, this is a shared passion. We both don't mind the sound of each other's voices, but more so our own. Why don't we give it a crack? And I never anticipated that certainly didn't anticipate we'd be 200 episodes in. And I wouldn't recommend anyone goes back and listens to the first 40 because you would share that opinion. But it's always been, I think, about the fact that we just enjoy catching up on a Monday night and And the longer it's gone on, there's probably been an increasing amount of structure around it. That's what comes with getting more comfortable with doing podcasts and also having a few sponsors. Make sure you keep yourself honest and keep them happy. But yeah, I don't think that's changed. I think that's still the same now. It's just there's a few more bells and whistles around it.
Yeah. And I think like what people don't hear, like, so what people end up hearing out of this is, 45 minutes to an hour and a half, occasionally longer, of golf talk. But either side of that, there's between 15 and 20 minutes of just catching up about life, right? And things that are happening. And I guess that's absolutely the reason that was going to be my answer as well. I mean, we both like golf, and from a business perspective, I think we also probably saw that there was a bit of a gap in the market for.
Yeah, I think that is important to acknowledge, right?
Like,
we did think that there wasn't necessarily someone talking to people like us about golf in a way that we would appreciate. So that there was an element to, this might actually be a smart idea as well. Yeah. We just want to ramble to each other once a week, every week. So
to be fair, I think that would be a good podcast. Just dribbling shit with each other for an hour and a half.
Could be a sub-feed of the 19th.
Yeah, it'd be like what's There's a few that have got like little sub ones. I think No Laying Up has the trap draw.
They do have the trap draw.
I don't think I've ever listened to it. But,
it's a great podcast. I'm a big fan.
Maybe we'll need to come up with something like that. Just because we've got so much time to record, one episode a week, let alone a whole nother.
I think that neatly describes it. Like ultimately for us, it was and remains a great platform for us to continue to share a really important friendship. But I think it's also, and this has probably been, I kind of made it a bit of a trivial joke and said that it's just us talking and there's a few more bells and whistles around it. What I think's actually happened is that we have done what we set out to do, and that is speak about golf in a way that resonates with an audience that wasn't being spoken to. Originally, I think that was simply covering PGA Tour events and just speaking, I forget the person who asked the question, but to their point, speaking with some strong opinions, maybe that others hold back on. And then increasingly now, probably in the last 12 months, it's having a far greater focus on what's happening here in Australia from a golf perspective. And I think that also resonates with people. So, yeah, we are a little bit more strategic than just having a chat. I think we try to adapt where we see people's interest and people's engagement. But, yeah, not to take anything away from, there's some great golf podcasts out there, but not necessarily ones that speak to an Australian audience under the age of 40.
So, and about Australian golf too.
Yeah,
it's a sport that doesn't get a great deal of attention in the broader media, and there are some obviously niche other golf podcasts out there that are Australian that do what we do, and that's great. Like, sure, we might compete for listens, but I think it's part of a very healthy ecosystem of golfing podcasts.
What's the saying? A rising tide lifts all boats.
No, that's a good one.
They say.
Did you come up with that?
No, I cannot lay claim to that. No, that's an existing saying.
But look, I think, to your point, the community that we've built in, and I say community in 2 and a bit years, I was just looking at it then, to have had 54,000 downloads in 2.5 years, I think has blown
stupid,
like way more than what we ever expected, and
stupid.
And I think, when we talk to potential sponsors and we talk to current sponsors and we talk to people, we never go in with like, yes, we have this great number of listeners, but like if our numbers don't grow from here, like I would never be disappointed. I would love for it to grow. Of course I would. But our community of people that are listening to this literally right now, that engage with us on social media, that love commenting on stuff and interacting with us, like that's all we could ever ask for. Like I'm looking at our top cities that we get downloads from: Sydney, Melbourne. Sydney and Melbourne are very close in the past year, Brisbane, and then Perth. Like, if we were to go and get some of those numbers and just get 10% of people that have downloaded from Sydney in the past year, we could have a wicked day out and do some great fun stuff. And I know that's one of the questions to explore later, but like, yeah, I think that's also a part of it too for me, is like, there is almost like this expectation of like, where the fuck are these guys? Like, there will be people sitting there that were like, why wasn't this pushed out on Tuesday like normal? You know, and that to me is kind of cool, but absolutely, in essence, to your point, it's just because we love chewing the fat as well. It's as simple as it is. So
I think it's probably answered maybe a few of the questions, because I think there was one there about I think it was from our good mate Bradley McIntosh. What along the lines of why do we keep doing?
That has been answered. Yeah, what keeps you guys doing what you're doing?
Yeah,
so.
and I, without putting too fine a point on it, it's not to say that if we'd had 400 downloads and 200 episodes, we wouldn't necessarily still be doing it. We might question whether we need to do it weekly, if that was the case. But increasingly, we continue to do it because it's clearly something that people enjoy. So, without wanting to pump everyone's tires up too much who's listening, that's the reason why we continue to do it, because it's reached a level now. I often think about this. I shouldn't say I often think about it, because that will send the wrong message. But I've often thought that we have probably reached the nexus where it's harder to get out than get in.
Do you think there's... Yeah, that's a very good point.
You know, I don't think we could just not... I don't think we could just like stop recording. I don't think... Yeah, there's a few too many... our greatest obligation is to our listeners. There's a few other obligations, and I think it would be. I mean, if we made that decision, I don't think it could be like just a final episode. It would almost have to be like a gradual decline, and I certainly don't think we could just not turn up. It's weird, right? Because I do think about that there's probably a period through those first 40 episodes, maybe even 60 to 80 episodes, but if we just stopped, like,
no one would really care, right?
Nah, it's all right.
Yeah.
But to your point, we got to a point where we would start to get messages if it wasn't out on a Tuesday, like, where's the pod?
Yeah.
And you quickly realize, like, oh fuck, like I might have to stop having kids because I don't have any more spare time on my hands, and I've just got a podcast to record. It's interesting. I think we are certainly now at a point where it's like the Australian cricket team of the 2000s. It's harder to get out than get in.
I don't know. We'll get to. There's more questions around the podcast, and we could talk for hours on all of this sort of stuff. But anyway, all right, let's go next question, next category. Podcast related, because Jesus, we've done that. Golf related.
Golf related.
All right, one that we could probably spend a bit of time on here. You're the 2028 President's Cup captain. You get 12 picks. A good one. Who's in your squad from Dane M. Suddy? Do you have like a pick, a group of 12 that you're picking? Have you written them down, or do you just want to spitball some names?
I thought about this mainly today. So I was on a plane twice today, this morning and this evening. Thought about it on the way home. If I look at it right, and obviously you've only got the 2019 President's Cup team to go off, and we'll get a better indication at the back end of this year. But if I look at it in terms of who, rolled out at Royal Melbourne in 2019, and I fast forward to 2028, in my mind, there's probably only, and this is wild, right? Because that's 6 years away. So to say that anyone's a lock is crazy. But in my mind, there's probably 5 locks.
Right.
It's Smith.
Yep.
Obviously. Might be a playing captain by 2028.
Also, how old will he be by that point? He'll be like 34?
Yep. Yeah. So he's getting on. So I think still a lock for 2028.
Yep.
I think Joaquin Neiman is a lock for 2028.
Yep.
I think Sung Jae Im is a lock for 2028. I think Abraham Answer is a lock for 2028. And then there was Corey Connors is the other one that I had in my mind who was like, yeah. So I think those 5, because I think there's some very deliberate selections in 2019 of succession planning and longevity, and the guys we can build. Like I think 2019 was Adam Scott's like 5th President's Cup. So you pick people very rarely to go, you're one and done. Like we're investing in you now. Somebody, particularly like Neiman. Neiman was like 19 in Melbourne, had no right to be picked, and they said, no, we see something in this kid, we're going to pick him. So I think those 5 guys definitely. And then you look around. I mean,
I'll give you one more. Can I give you one more before you?
As a lock? Yeah, please.
Yeah,
please.
with Lee.
Lock.
Yep. Trajectory. He's going to win. He's going to win 3 times on the PGA Tour between now and then.
Wow. Some guys don't win 3 times on the PGA Tour in their career.
Yeah. He's on a friggin' awesome trajectory.
Okay. So
and
look, he
hits the ball a long way, to our point before.
Hits the ball a mile. Belts the cover off it. He was definitely in my next level of considerations.
Okay,
I'm not sure if I was willing to.
I'm locking him up. Lock it up.
Lock.
I'm doing what you did to Lowry.
Larry is a lock. There's just a lot of people I think who fall off from 2019, right? Like Scotty's not going to be there. East Hasten's not going to be there. Leash is the greatest respect to Leash. Leash is not playing President's Cup in 6 years. So then it's like, okay, where do you look? So South Korea, there's depth. You've got I don't know if Benny Hahn comes back. Benny Hahn played 2019, but he's fallen off the face of the map. Siwoo Kim is a really solid player. Is he there? You look to South Africa. Garrick Higo, Wilco Nienaber,
Van Rooyen.
Van Rooyen. Van Rooyen could be a fair shot for this year. I don't know if he's there. And
he's 9th currently. So he's only one spot off.
He's probably in. He's probably in this year. But if you're looking 6 years down the track, they've definitely got those two in Higo and Nienaber, who are kind of the forerunners of South African golf. And South Africans always make up a strong portion of the team. And then you look at guys like Takumi Kanaya out of Japan, who's one of, if not the best amateurs in the world at the moment. He'll come up. So I think there's plenty of people around. From an Australian perspective, Min Woo definitely. Lucas Herbert is another one who you would think would be factoring at that time. Cam Davis, if he continues the way he's going at the moment, and he's got a couple of years in those guys, so be pretty old, but he's another one you have to think about. It's hard, right? Because you also can't account for, I thought about today, what about from an Australian perspective, what about guys like Jed Morgan, Louis Dobler, those guys coming through that, we've spoken to plenty. 6 years' time, they could be anywhere. Like Jed's going to have a European Tour card as well, might Louis, wrapped up. Jed is almost certainly going to be playing at the US Open next year. So that's
then you've even got the next level down that are in the junior sixes.
Jeffrey Guan.
Jeffrey Guan. He was the one that I was just going to say. And then there are guys that are at college at the moment, like Carl Phillips, who is just immensely talented. So, I don't know. I agree with you. I think there's a couple of guys that I reckon that we've potentially undersold a little bit. Adam Hadwin was part of that team, not a lock, but might be pushing on a little bit in age, and Sebastian Munoz as well. So, El Hef.
We love the Hef. Mito Pereira is another one of the other Chilean.
Pereira. Anaban Lahiri is currently 11th in the standings this year.
Wow.
Carlos Ortiz
would be a huge tip,
wouldn't he?
For this year. He'd be a huge tip for this year. But it's hard. It's hard when you're looking into the crystal ball. I think, as you say, there's probably, I've got 5. I'm not prepared to elevate him. We'll do a lock, but you are. So let's just say we've got roughly half the 5.5 in our mind. That's pretty well cemented, barring any major catastrophes. So it'd be really interesting to see who emerges. And to your point, I get the sense there's probably 2 or 3 that we haven't even seen really in earnest yet. So,
is there being very diplomatic and taking a President's Cup international team hat off here? Is there a situation between now and 2028 where you can see the international team winning?
Well, any time we play a home meet, I think we go to Canada, aren't we? In
Yeah, Montreal's the next
24.
home one.
Yeah. So, I mean, that doesn't scream away game for the Americans, does it?
No.
Look, a lot of things got to go your way. A lot of things went our way at Royal Melbourne, and we still lost by, what was it? 2?
Three, I think. 2 or 3, whatever it was.
So, yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, to be honest, I think we're a better chance in 2028 than we are this year, just based on what's coming through.
100%.
And based on what we see. We're going to struggle this year.
We're going to get spanked this year.
And that's not to do, like, I mean, we said it in the Masters review. After the first round at Augusta, I had us winning the President's Cup.
Yeah.
We were flying.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be a tough watch this year. So yeah, let's say 2028, Royal Melbourne. We'll do it. We'll finally crack through.
I honestly think that is our best chance. So just looking through Quail Hollow this year, Royal Montreal 24, Medina 26, which will be great as a venue, and then 28 we assume will be Royal Melbourne. But by the same sort of token as to what we said about some great talent coming through, the Americans have some phenomenal players coming through the ranks at even that next level. I mean, to 2019, we weren't even considering Scotty Scheffler, and 3 years later, he's undeniably the best player in the world, right?
Mate,
and probably
Scotty
earlier
Scheffler
this year,
was like the 12th man onto the Ryder Cup team last year.
Yeah, correct.
So,
and then you got guys like I'm just looking through the collegiate golf rankings at the moment. Guys like Cole Hammer out of Texas is fantastic. Pearson Coody, who also plays out of Texas, is arguably better than Cole Hammer. There are a lot of very, very good players coming through, and I think that it's going to be very tough, I think, for the internationals to ever truly compete with the US. But I think the day that we win on American soil will be one of the greatest sport achievements that's ever been achieved by anyone.
Very, very cool. It's interesting too, right? I think the captains are so intrinsically tied to the success. I don't think it's any secret that we went as close as we've been in a long time in 2019 with Ernie Els as the captain, and the amount of time he put into that. And increasingly now, I think Paul McGinley probably really started the revolution when he was the captain of the Europeans, who won in 2013, I think it was. Was it the Miracle at Medina?
Not sure. Not up to date on my Ryder Cup captains.
If you can Google that while I'm waxing lyrical, when the year that Paul McGinley was the captain of the European team, he, I think, really started this revolution of approaching the captain's role different. And it's manifested itself in a bunch of different ways, more often than not on the European side. So Bjorn did it in 2019 when the Europeans knocked off the Americans at La Nacional. And Ernie was very much that way, like lent into the stats, lent into the pairings, lent into the, all the stories of the acknowledgement of the different cultures in the lead up to. And that captain's role is so important now in these, because it's like anything, right? It's like you're not coaching, you're not teaching them how to play golf. You're man managing, and you're creating an environment that brings the best out of people. So you got Trevor Immelman, who was one of the assistants at Royal Melbourne, and I think has been on the path. And then what do the next few years look like? Like, it would make sense that Mike Weir, who's an assistant this year, becomes your captain in Montreal. But you've got a guy like Jeff Ogilvy, who was an assistant at Royal Melbourne. He's an assistant again here. Like, Jeff's owed his dues. KJ Choi is now a 2-time consecutive assistant, again, Royal Melbourne here. So really interesting to see how they because I think particularly, obviously the international team are far greater underdogs than the European team, but more often than not, the Europeans going as underdogs against the Americans. And that captain's role is so, so important.
Yeah.
Have you got a year for me?
Hey, 2014.
There you go.
Right. Next question. We've got a lot to go, and we've been going for a while, so we're going to have to get through a couple, I reckon.
Okay, let's go non-golf related.
Favorite sport other than golf from the original Pete Harvey?
Do you know, I saw I was like, is this the ghost of Peter Harvey? Come on.
I loved Peter Harvey. 60 Minutes. Oh,
Peter Harvey.
God, it was a show growing up.
One of the greats. Peter Harvey. Rest in peace, Pete. I think for me it's Australian rules football. But this could be this might not be a short answer. You could go American football. You could go for your college football. I like the round ball. Increasingly, I like the F1. I love, like, my summer is cricket. I think, if I'm honest, it's seasonal. If right now we're in AFL season, so I'd say it's Australian rules football, but you lose me to cricket for 4 months in summer. So it's probably one of those two. And then I do have an enduring passion for sports played predominantly overseas as well.
It's interesting you didn't mention league there.
Yeah, it's I don't know.
Is it because Bronx are shit?
There's probably an element of that. Like, I'll always support the Bronx. They're making it hard in the last few years, but I don't know. I think it's probably more to do at a macro level where the game's going, and I just find it increasingly difficult to watch. I think also ever since I started watching Aussie rules, like, I find it a far more engaging game to view, and that's both on television and in person. I think it might be one of the best sports to watch in person. It's phenomenal what you pick up when you're there, and it helps when you've been on a journey with the team you adopted back in 2011, and it's not been a very pleasant one, and they finally taste some success. So I think there's a lot of things that have correlated at the same time to, push Aussie rules to the top spot. But yeah, I think that's probably where I'm at personally. How about you?
I'd say pretty comfortably college football. Like, I think
you say.
I just obviously having experienced it, I think makes a massive difference. But just just what comes with it, and the way that it's broadcast, and the way that the sport is run is like it's on another level that I don't think people can comprehend. Like, in many ways, in pockets of the US, college football is bigger than the NFL by a long, long way. Alabama, right, has no professional sporting teams. I'm just racking my brain very quickly. Don't have any professional sporting teams.
Don't think so.
And in the big 4 or 5, don't have an NFL team, and it's enormous. Similarly, that's where I went to school in Oregon. Was 2 professional sporting teams, and it was college football. So, but I'm like you. Like, cricket in the summer is quite incredible, and I don't know. I like footy. I've probably fallen out of love with it a little. Just even watching games in the past little while, I find the inconsistency frustrating. Just in general, of like growing up, like what I played and what I watched compared to what I watch now in terms of what rules exist, just like blows my mind sometimes. But anyway, what do they call it? Hot button topic. Yeah. Next question.
Hot button issue, probably.
Yes. Sorry, that's the one.
Let's go back to podcast related.
Okay, I'm gonna
amalgamate a few.
Yes, I am, because there's 4 here from one person. So the first one is, when is Kieran going to get a mic that does his voice justice? That's from Figgy Smalls. Now, funny story about this, because we actually had a little bit of audio issue before we got going today for episode 200. Would you believe? We still have audio issue. And those people that have made it this far might realize that Marshy's mic does in fact sound much better. And we realized that the settings weren't set up. So he was getting the microphone via the laptop. I assume that's what you're rolling off over there, instead of the plug-in, the nice, new one that we went out and bought on the arm. Because we've gone through 3 mics in 200 episodes. The first one we bought was the little, you remember that little poxy piece of shit?
Horrendous.
Horrible. And then we got the Yeti, which was
served as well.
Yeah. Very, very good. And then we just decided that we like to move mics around. So anyway.
The irony being, we got the fancy looking one and I couldn't figure out how the fuck to use it. So
that's right. It's all good. All right. So also from Figgy Smalls, so surely some new vintage kit coming out. So this I thought would be a great time for me to plug that we officially have a website. So pulled a few things together. 19th Tee podcast.square.site, because we're not paying for a domain name because we're cheap. And on there is our store, which you can go online and buy the logo cap, which are on our sponsors now for $40. The shirts, which are $35, and the original tee that Marshy's got on there, if people can see that, $25. So that's on sale. So go and get into that. And so to Sammy Fig's point, some new vintage kit. We do need to get our arse in gear and get some merch sorted out. But we are sitting on a lot of stock, so we're probably not going to hit the button on any sort of vintage merch anytime soon.
No.
Stock. So yeah. So that's
we might run a little promo, a little sale. Look,
Correct.
it's a great question from Figgy Smalls, very loyal listener, Samuel. I actually saw him sporting a Talk Birdie to Me t-shirt over the weekend on his trip to Melbourne.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, very good of him to be supporting the podcast. From memory, we chose 2 shirts out of a possible 4 or 5 designs. So we might need to look at revisiting a few of those, because Talk Birdie to Me was brilliant.
Buck Fogies was another one.
Buck Fogies, plenty of those. Fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, it's definitely on the radar. Obviously, we have some income. We strategically decide how to use that, and merch is always an interesting one to pull the trigger on, because you're obviously very contingent on sales. So, look, we'll certainly be exploring. Maybe some new shirts, maybe a new cap. We've only ever really dabbled in the one form of cap, the original. So we might look at that too.
Maybe bucket hats. I hear they're quite the in fashion.
Stay tuned. Now, also, just you plug the website. We haven't had a chance to speak about this because I've had my head buried in my work for the last 5 or 6 days. But just before I logged on tonight, did I see my boys written an article?
Yes. So
for the website. So not just a shop, also a content hub.
Worked out how to do it this afternoon.
Outstanding.
Post work. So I thought I'd pull together a couple of little articles up there at the moment, just a little bit of a preview on the WAPGA Championship getting underway at Kalgoorlie this week. And then I thought maybe weekly I'll try and do a bit of a wrap up on a Wednesday of just news from around the Australian golfing circuit. So
excellent,
which would be good. So 19th Tee podcast.square.site. Go and visit it.
Well, you are the resident writer. You're the only published writer in this duo so far.
I'd still say once you start writing some content,
I might
pretty shit.
What I might do, I might carve out a little niche for myself as the opinion columnist. So there'll be no hard news. There'll certainly be no fucking previews or reviews for that matter. That's what I use my voice for on this podcast. I'll exclusively do opinions. Maybe editorial opinion content. Maybe
Jesus
that's me.
Christ. All right.
That could be dangerous.
Yeah.
Next.
I'm bundling Figgy Smalls all together because they're all around. I guess what they're keen to see. Vlogs keen to see you on the course playing holes with the pro. Caddy chats, they have the best dirt on the players. We haven't had a caddy on, so that would be a great one to do. And in terms of vlogs, then we've certainly had plans. I guess COVID have kind of thrown that in the lurch.
I wasn't allowed into Western Australia up until about 4 weeks ago. So hazmat, and Droods couldn't leave and then get back in either. So hazmat is also slightly difficult, but we're working on it.
Yes, so maybe towards the back end of this year we'll have some sort of course vlog type setup, which is what we're looking for.
I think the caddy call out's great. We do, and I think that we should probably something I should have raised off air, so we don't commit ourselves to it.
Just go for it.
I think we should aim for Pinner.
I agree.
Smith's caddy as our first caddy guest. So you and I'll take that one offline.
We will.
Figure out how best to get in touch with Pinner, because I don't know that he's on the socials, which is generally our first port of call. But yeah, I think Pinner would be an excellent first one. So we'll work on it.
Next.
Personal golf. Let's go back there.
At Josh Roberg, will Kieran and myself commit to being in single digits by 2023? I'll answer this on behalf of both of us. No.
It's a hard no. It's a hard no. And he asks that question with the knowledge of what the answer is going to be in advance. And I think that's a little cheeky.
I'll throw it back to him. Is Josh Roberg going to commit to being in single figures if he's not already?
If you listen to him, he probably says he already is. But I also find that hard to believe.
Right.
It's kind of like, oh no, I'm a 16, but definitely playing more like a 9. So
interesting.
That's the type of questions. That's the type of statements. But he's certainly taken to playing a fair bit since he's returned home from the the Big Apple.
Maybe that's our first course vlog that we'll need to kind of set up, is get you two out, given that you're obviously both in Queensland.
Oh, he'd love that.
I don't
know if that's the content we're after, but he would. He has actually approached me, and I don't know that I flagged this with you, but he's approached me in recent weeks about potentially being an audience member. I don't know what that looks like. I think that's sitting in this room off camera, just kind of like watching as we record, which I find pretty fucking weird, to be honest. But
so like the peanut gallery,
a little bit like that, yeah. Which I'd find very unnerving to be talking to you and have him like just here.
Is this Josh's way of starting to think of a third co-host of the non-NFT?
I think he's had more than one dream about it. Yes, yeah.
All right.
I've said no to just to clarify. I don't think I need an audience member here in the room. So
next,
let's stick with personal golf. I think we should almost be through those, so we can.
Yes, there's two more. Do you want to finish them both off?
Let's go through those two. Yeah.
All right. From at Blitz Golf, how good of an MC do you think Nathan will be at Blitz WA? So there's probably
this is a bit of an inside baseball fucking question here,
isn't it? Yes.
Hello. Hello, Simon.
Yes, hello, Simon. So I am emceeing the event out at WA Golf Club next Tuesday afternoon, which would be fantastic. Fantastic field set as well. I've seen some really good names on that list, so that'll be a lot of fun to get out and MC. But I hope I'll do a good job.
To answer, excellent. I think you've been excellent at MC.
Thanks, mate. Last one in personal golf related. Have your handicaps improved since starting the podcast? At Ian Pryor. Probably covered that at the top, and I think we both maybe agree marginally.
Yeah. I think it's an immaterial change. I often say, because you get into conversation with people and what are your hobbies? What do you do outside of work? And I host a golf podcast. Oh, do you really? You must be a pretty good player. No, I'm actually not that great at all. Oh, is that not like a problem?
Yeah.
I was like, well, I don't understand why I need to be good at it as a prerequisite to talking about. I only need to be good at watching it, which I'm exceptionally good at,
though, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm exceptionally good at watching it. And I enjoy being self-deprecating about my level of play when we talk. Yeah. But people seem to think there's a correlation between. When people I go out and play with who know that I do this, and then you don't play well, it's like, yeah, but I thought you hosted like a golf podcast. It's like, well, there's not a correlation between sitting here and talking about it and being able to swing a club well.
Yeah.
Often it's the people who can't talk. That's the old rule. So I'd say an immaterial change, and I'm perfectly comfortable with that.
Yeah, agreed. All right, that's all the personal golf related questions.
Let's go back to golf, just pure golf related.
From Dane M. Saddy, you're the new commissioner of the PGA of Australia. What do you do to revive the tour?
Jesus. Bro. This could have probably been episode 201 on its own.
Yeah.
Look, I'm conscious that we've certainly ridden a roller coaster in the past 8 months. We've been highly critical of both Golf Australia and the PGA of Australasia. At times, we felt we deserved it, and in retrospect, I don't change my mind. I think it was well deserved at the time. In more recent months, we've been full of praise because, again, they've deserved it the way in which they have adapted this summer, and certainly some exciting announcements. Obviously with the return of the PGA next year or the end of this year, and it being the first stop of the European Tour for the men. The ladies are back at Bonneville, which is now again a part of the Ladies European Tour. So they've done some outstanding work in the last 4 years. I don't know, like those questions are often set up to say you'd go in and put a broom through the place and have radical change, and I think that we need to be cognizant of being aware of our standing in world golf. Like the strategic partnerships, particularly with the European Tour, is incredibly important. So like maintaining that at all costs is of the utmost importance. But we can't lose sight of where we are. Like we need to focus on bringing people to our shores, but also focus on really that next wave of talent. Like this will never be a place where consistently the best players in the world are playing. This will be a place that is a wonderful nursery for Australian men and women who go on to do great things on the world stage, like Cameron Smith, like Hannah Green, like Minjee Lee, like Leash, like Scotty. So we need to, we can't lose sight of where we sit in the ecosystem, and our focus has to remain on being a launch pad for Australian talent to go and perform on the world stage.
Yeah, I think it's really well put. I think I will probably have a better answer for this question after the PGA Expo in Melbourne in October this year, which we're both going to try and get along to, if we're allowed in. And I don't entirely, in fact, I completely agree with what you've said. I think when I reflect on what we said in our episode that went relatively viral last year, I think everything that we said was we read statements off websites, and we don't need to go through all that again. I think my increasing frustration that I still have was the lack of communication around what was being done.
Yeah.
And that, I think, was also the feedback that we received at the time was that, well, we are doing this. And it's like, well, no one knew. So you've got to communicate that. And I think there's been a clear change in that space within Golf Australia and the PGA in the last couple of months. And we've had a very fruitful meeting with them and essentially wipe the slate clean between the two of us. And we're really proactive in a few of those things. I don't have the answer as to what I would do as the new commissioner. I think, coming from the job that I'm in now, I think I've probably seen more so how important commercial viability is to long-term sustainability of sport. So I think starting there would probably be if I'm literally sitting in the seat, that'd probably be my first port of call. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have any broad sweeping changes because I think what they've introduced in the TPS and what they've introduced as far as a schedule for this year has been amazing. It's been outstanding. And if this is the schedule moving forward, I am quite happy with all of that. It won't change my opinions of what's happened in 2020 and 2021 and I think everyone is of that opinion. But I'm quite happy for this to be the schedule moving forward. Would I love to see a PGA Tour event here? Absolutely. Would I love to see a swing where there's 3-4 European Tour events played in Australia and New Zealand and Asia? Absolutely. Is that a pipe dream? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think the answer to that question can be what would you do as the new commissioner of the PGA? I would go and get a PGA Tour event because it's not that simple, right? In reality, it's not that simple.
Well, I think, and I only want to say one more thing on this, and I think it dovetails nicely with what you've just said, is it was something that when we were going through that probably 4 to 6 week period of episode after episode being critical, there was a point that in my memory, at least, I don't know if this is how it played out, but I feel like this is what I was saying. There's a point I kept coming back to, and that is that, so the question is, if you're the new commissioner of the PGA Tour of Australasia, what would you do? The question is not if you're the new CEO of Golf Australia. And it's really important to make the distinction.
Correct.
Right. So if you're and we don't call him a commissioner, Gavin Kirkman's the CEO of the PGA of Australasia. Gavin Kirkman's primary stakeholder are his 1,300 odd members that exist around the country. The PGA Tour of Australasia is a member organisation. So everything that he and they do by extension has to be and must be in the best interest of and for the benefit of their members. Now, we were critical at the time because that's not what was happening. And factors sure beyond their control. We've been full of praise now because what they have concentrated on doing in the last 4 to 5 months is fleshing out a really full summer schedule. Now, there's chicken and egg conversations around you need commercial partners, to your point, and commercial viability to be able to do that. And I'm sure they're working on that. And that's really important as a focus because money fixes all problems. But like whatever you do, sure, go after a PGA Tour event would be wonderful. But golf fans have to remember that Gavin Kirkman's job is not to keep golf fans happy. It's to keep his members happy. And ultimately, I think they've done a really good job of that this summer. Moving forward, that has to remain the focus. Go and get a PGA Tour event if you can. It'd be wonderful for golf in this country. Absolutely not at the expense of the pros that we talk to week in, week out who play here. It can't be an either or. It has to be for the benefit of the members here. And if we can get it, perfect.
Yeah, it's a very good call out. I think the one that I'd be interested to unpack at a very different time, and hopefully we could get some people from Golf Australia or the PGA on to specifically Golf Australia to chat about is the way that Golf Australia is structured in relation to individual states as well. Because I think if you recall when you first joined
the federated model.
Yes, when you first joined the organisation that we both worked for over here in Perth, it was 2015. There was a World Cup on that year, and there was a massive plan around the essentially riding the wave of the elevated media attention and the in-your-face nature of this event. And it was really important. And off the back of it, we saw some phenomenal growth at the grassroots, which is ultimately where everything begins. So my question is, when we have events like the President's Cup here in 2019, and we have it coming back in 2028, 2040, when we have all these other wonderful events that are going on around the country and on the tour, where is the plan?
What are we doing?
Yeah, because I got really frustrated when I was at Royal Melbourne in 2019, and I didn't see. I saw Cobra Puma there. I saw TaylorMade. Like everyone was hitting golf balls and all of that sort of stuff, and I was like, this is amazing. But where's like the Into Golf like equivalent? Yeah. Where's like there are heaps of kids here that are coming to watch Tiger Woods play. Like it's, I don't know, that kind of frustrated me a little bit. So it's an interesting one because I know the structure is a bit dicey anyway, but maybe we can explore that.
All questions we are hoping to put to Golf Australia,
which we did get. You know, out of that meeting, we had a really positive discussion and said that they would be their new media manager said that they would happily put their couple of CEOs up, which would be great. And maybe it'll be around that Melbourne thing, which hopefully will make work if it aligns.
If we can.
All right, next question. We got a few to go here, so
let's keep going with golf related.
All right, Dane M. Suddy will finish his off here. Would you rather revive the Australian Masters or throw money at the State Opens and PGAs?
I think I've just answered that.
Yeah, agree.
So if we're going to get, I'm trying to say this with the greatest amount of respect to tradition and history, I don't know that reviving the Australian Masters is going to make any difference at all, because I still don't think anyone's going to come down to it. If we go and get a
purse is there.
No, that's right. But I mean, again, that time, like any of this, we're talking between November and March latest. We can't pay more than what Century Tournament Champions is paying at Wailea, or like it's just not going to happen, right? So we need to go out and bring an event like a PGA Tour or a WGC or an elevated, like we need to bring an event they're going to play anyway and make them come here, because reviving an Australian Masters, I just don't think is going to make any difference. And therefore, if it's an either or, it has to be pump more, like make the state tours more enticing to go to and stick around for, and build the game here that way, so that by the time we get to the PGA, with the greatest respect, we don't have someone like Jed running away with it. We have a hotly contested field because we're playing quality events at the state level week in, week out.
With the order of merit being essentially decided by winning one tournament.
Yeah, that's and I love him. I hope nothing would be with greater joy if he walks away with this, the European Tour card, and playing at the US Open. Yeah, I think that would be awesome. And he showed some good form in the most recent outing as well. But he's had a bit of a dry patch. He admits that himself. He's had a phenomenal performance at Royal Queensland and pretty much made himself untouchable. So I don't know that that's how it was intended. Yeah, nor how it should be. I
agree with you. I would rather, if I'm throwing a material number around here, right? If the Australian Masters came back at $5 million, I would rather $1 million go to 5 state opens. I think it would entice more players to think twice about potentially leaving to go and play in other tours, which has its pros and cons. But you would have more of a chance of attracting players to bigger purses where it's consistent money, not just $5 million, 100,000 either side.
Well, the irony is I think, say for maybe a handful of 2 or 3, you're going to get the same players at the state tournaments at $1 million a pop as you were at the Masters for $5 million, because you're still not getting any more people coming down. So, for the betterment of the game, which we spoke about just before, let's spread the wealth, spend a bit of money in the States and territories for that matter. Don't forget the territories.
One thing I would really like to see, just going back to the question before about PGA Tour Commissioner, was better have an event in every state and territory. Currently, no events in South Australia, who have some of the
best courses in the country.
And
Tasmania,
none in Tasmania. So
also some handy courses down there.
Anyway, so that's that one. All right, probably about 10 to go.
Have we completely wrapped up podcast related questions?
No, there's 2 to go.
Let's go there.
At Braden McCubbing, has podcasting impacted your lives in any weird ways?
I don't think so. I think for me, I wouldn't say this has impacted my life, but I'm sometimes surprised by the people who you find out listen.
Yeah.
You know, so like for instance, my better half, my beautiful wife Anthea, she went to a wedding a couple of months ago up in Darwin of old school friend, and had some other school friends around, and was talking to a couple of guys she went to school with, who just started talking about, just completely randomly started talking about listening to the 19th tee. And I'd met one of them once, but I had never spoken about, I've never spoken about golf, let alone hosting a golf podcast. So just, I think that for me, and again, it still hasn't impacted my life, but I do find it weird that you'll often stumble upon people go, oh yeah, oh, is that you? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Other than that, I don't think so. Like, I don't think it's like it hasn't caused any major disruptions or No, I don't think so. No.
I think again, people listen to 45 minutes to an hour and a half, right? And probably don't
in trouble with this one.
Yeah, and don't understand the breadth of work that probably goes to actually getting it to air. So I think that the
impacted your life a lot more than mine.
Yeah, in terms of editing and stuff. But I think it's also like, you know, organizing merchandise isn't just like, you know, clicking a button and it happens. It's
plug and play.
Yeah, you've got to sort a few things out. And look, like it's there's absolutely been times, and I'm sure that you've felt this as well, where you come home on a Monday night, we haven't watched that much golf. No. We've had a shit day at work. We're fucking knackered, and we go, and we jump on and we do it because we love it. And it honestly does. It brings me joy. Even when I sit down and I go, fuck, I'm knackered. Honestly, I can't be asked doing this. And then we start talking and I'm like, I'm up and about. I'm good.
Yeah.
So I think that's also probably the impact that it's had in my life.
Good call out. Check out B McCubbin covers. Best in the business.
Yes, unreal. Last one in the podcast related stuff. Chances of a 19th tee golf day happening. Again,
this pops up. This popped up in the 100th episode. This pops up semi-regularly.
Listener survey. Look, yes. Location TBA. I mean, you look at our stats, and Sydney would be quite the obvious choice.
Seems like most listeners are. Seems like the obvious choice. I think, let's be unequivocally clear. In theory, completely on board.
Yeah.
Just working through some logistics.
What it might end up looking like is, booking 5 tee times back to back and filling it with 18 listeners at a public golf course in Sydney. And that might be our first golf day where you just pay your green fees. We don't tell the course that it's a golf day, so we don't get slugged with the fees. So
I reckon we head up to Prisian Springs with our good friend Cassie Porter. I mean, they were very accommodating with my group of 16.
They were
back end of last year. So hey,
or Caboolture Golf Club.
Hey, there's a call. One of the great. I don't know. It's kind of like international man of mystery. We're unaware of the identity of the person who administers the Caboolture Golf Club Instagram account at Caboolture GC. Great content, by the way. Great content, but also a very, very loyal supporter of this podcast. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's the annual. I mean, doesn't really solve our Sydney issue, being a primary listener base, but yeah,
I'm sure we could go to. I'm sure we'd have some inns in Sydney. So. Should we use Caboolture Golf Club as a segue to go to our next question, which is in golf related? So I'm picking the category for you. What makes people want to be a greenskeeper? I don't know. If maybe the person who runs Caboolture Golf Club is a greenskeeper and he's having a bit of an existential crisis.
Maybe, yeah. That's I did read that and I was like, surely you'd be best placed to answer that question. I don't know. So I've got a mate who is a greenskeeper. Works on the Melbourne Sandbelt at one of the country's best courses. I'm incredibly envious that he rides fairways all day there. So I think he ultimately loves the game, always has loved the game. And I think wanted to find a way to work in it and stumbled into that. I think there's probably that. And then there's also, I don't know, people who just have a passion for grass and fertilizers and this weirdo. Your grass does look phenomenal, but oh man.
It's fun though. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
I love spending, half my day out the backyard mowing, and that's great. It's good stuff.
Just get a good mower. It takes 10 minutes, mate.
So sorry, I don't think we can answer that question all that well, but I don't know. I'm sure it's a passion for A, the game, and B, the actual work. Whether or not they're in that order, who knows?
3 questions left in golf related, 4 in non-golf related.
Let's go non-golf. Let's go back-to-back non-golf.
At Dane M. Suddy, do Bennett and the Dolphins do any good next year? I'll just sit quietly here because I have no idea. I genuinely couldn't tell you. I know they've got a fantastic commercial manager running things up there at the moment. That's all I know.
So for those non-rugby league supporters, Dane is referring to the I don't know. I think they're just going with Dolphins because they've been the Redcliffe Dolphins in the Queensland Cup for 70, 80 odd years. And they were the successful bid for the expansion franchise. And then in strange circumstances, they're essentially, I believe, told to drop the Redcliffe from their name. They'll always be quintessentially Redcliffe. They'll remain at their train. I think they'll play at Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. Wayne Bennett has been recruited, the super coach. Depending on who you talk to, he's a phenomenal coach, got a great record, but you look at his last probably 10, 12 years and every club he's gone to and then left has turned into a basket case afterwards. So is that the club? Is that the common thread? I don't know. They haven't. I mean, what you want as an expansion franchise is you want one big dog.
Yeah.
You need one big dog. And so far, what they've got is a series of small to medium-sized dogs and are running out of available big dogs on the free agency market because everyone's re-signing at their current clubs.
Right.
So they started with a list as long as your arm of people who are off contract next year. And one by one, or in the Melbourne Storm's case, they signed 3 on the same day, I think a week or 2 ago. All of their available options are slipping through their fingers. That's important not only from on the field, but also as a franchise player, right?
Yeah.
It's your draw card. And as a new franchise, that's so necessary. So, look, I think ultimately, I certainly don't think they'll make the 8 next year in terms of the finals. I think if they have, we play 20, 25, 26 odd games. If they have north of 10 wins, that's probably a huge success, I would suggest.
Okay.
And that's not a criticism to them. It's, you look at any expansion franchise that's in the rugby league or anywhere else for that matter. And don't forget, rugby league aren't like the AFL. They don't get expansion franchise and then given 8 top 10 draft picks.
Yeah.
So everyone struggles in their first few years. That's just par for the course.
We'll wrap up Dane M. Studies questions for the day. Do the jacket and tie stay on or off at the Drudy wedding?
I actually got the save the date. You'd be pleased
did
to know. I know you've had some
Jesus.
Australia Post challenges. Not Robinson Crusoe there.
Yeah.
I didn't note. I mean, obviously it's generally not the case of save the dates because they're very top level info, mainly the date. But I didn't notice a dress code. So that's really a question for you because it will be a matter of like what are we wearing? What's going on there?
Look, I will wear a jacket.
No tie,
but open collar.
Okay, so
which I think is what you did for yours.
I did. I wore so I didn't go with the increasingly popular kind of like statement jacket into a chino option. I went like a suit essentially, just open collar.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, that's I think that plays.
You can wear a suit if you want. You can wear a jacket if you want. I don't know.
Look, I will probably go. I'll probably go jacket, open collar, and look, I think that answers half of Dane's question, and also there's every chance the jacket comes off at some stage in the night. So the jacket and the tie at some stage will be off in true 19th T fashion.
I'll give you the hot tip by 9 o'clock with the dance floor starting. The jacket will be finding the back of the chair very quickly.
Brilliant. Good question.
All right. 2 in non-golf, 3 in golf.
Let's go golf.
From Big Nerd 88, what's the best way to make a swing change? How long does it take? How long does it take for it to take effect? Great question. I've been working on swing changes subtly and not so subtly for 6 to 8 months at least, and I'm still haven't got full great results, albeit I don't practice as much as I should. But I would say it's, if you practice fully, I reckon you could probably do it in 6 months. But it's a creature of habit, right? Like I go to the range and I might, film myself very briefly and I feel like I'm doing the right thing. And I'm absolutely doing the completely wrong thing. So, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. My honest answer would be go and see a coach.
I say thank you. I'm glad you finished there.
Don't take advice from us.
I was only going to add 2 things to the conversation, and that's first and absolutely foremost, seek professional help. That's the only way you'll properly implement a swing change. And the second one is be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
So you ask, the question was how long. That should not be an equation that enters your mind. No, because we most recently spoken about swing change into the Jordan Speed. That looks still pretty bad. I know he won. I love him.
Great though.
Everyone knows I love him, but doesn't look great. And that guy hits hundreds of balls a day and has been doing that swing change for 2 months now, and it like hundreds of balls a day, and it still looks bad. So my message overall is be kind to yourself. It'll take as long as you want it to take, but don't think I'm going to come out of this in 6 months' time. I'll be a completely new player.
It's a really good point. Like I was having a conversation with someone the other day, just doing a bit of practice with them, and we were talking about the percentage of putts made on the PGA Tour from different distances, and then where we went and did it. And like, I think I can't even remember what it was, but like we worked out he plays off 5, and I'm off somewhere in 18 to 20 range. So like pretty substantial differences. And like all in all, we weren't that far off in terms of percentage wise. So it's like absolutely be kind to yourself. If you got to remember that from 100 yards or 100 meters out, PGA Tour players still miss the green. So if you miss the green
often,
it's okay.
Yeah.
And like I absolutely fall into this trap as well, because I sit there and I go, I should jam this to 3 feet. Absolutely. Because this is what I watch on TV and I should do this. This is very, very easy. Yeah. I should do this. Yeah. And then I get up there and I miss the green or, thin it or whatever. Like, and it is frustrating because everyone wants to shoot low, but I agree. To your point, be kind to yourself. All right.
Non-golf.
PK plays golf. Favorite non-golfing sport event attended?
I went to a game of football at Old Trafford.
Oh yes,
which it was a shit game. It was a round game. I follow United in football, and they played Fulham, and they still sold 75,000 tickets. I was fortunate enough to sit at the Stratford end, which is the home end. I did not sit for the entire game because the first whistle blew and everyone stood up. I was like, what the fuck's going on? I can't see what's going on. So I didn't sit. So I stood for 90 odd minutes. And Fulham equalised 2-2 in the 93rd minute. And it was a truly deflating feeling. But comfortably one of the most phenomenal sporting experiences I've had live and in the flesh. It was awesome.
I went to the 2013 grand final. Hawks lost, I think, from memory to Sydney. Might have been 2012, 2013. I can't remember which way around it was. That sucked, but it was still pretty cool to be at. I guess probably one of my favorite sporting memories was when I was at college and Oregon was the number 1 ranked football team in the country at that point, which was an enormous deal. We were playing UCLA. Go Bruins. In sort of a decent rivalry, they came up. We dusted them, but I have a piece of footage on my phone where the camera, I think we're, about to score a touchdown and the camera lens is vibrating. That's how loud it was by the way that the stadium's designed. The noise stays in. So that was pretty cool.
Okay.
Then we fell off a cliff and our last game of the year was against Oregon State and we scored a touchdown with like 13 seconds to go to win. So that was pretty cool. And then we rushed the field and I had jumped off the stands onto the field. Didn't realize it was like a 10 to 12 foot drop.
Yeah,
I just thought it was like a meter. And I was like, holy shit. When you have that moment where you do that with your arms. So anyway, someone broke the leg that night. So, but anyway. No, it wasn't me. Back to golf related.
What have we got? 2 and 1?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go back to golf.
Tommy Ryan golf. How many wins does Scotty Scheffler finish with this season? He's got 4.
I reckon he wins. It's crazy. I reckon he wins once more.
That was going to be my number as well.
Yep.
It's a good one.
I don't know where. It would be phenomenal if it's a major. If he goes to Southern Hills or Brookline and wins, we're talking about up amongst the great all-time years individually.
Agree.
5 wins, 2 majors. Yeah, that would be, yeah. So I reckon it's once more.
It also would not surprise me if it was no more.
Yeah, absolutely.
as well. If the run
and he would still be player of the year.
Correct. We'll finish on the golf related one. So we'll go back to the non-golf. I don't know why I've left this to the end, but this is a big one. At Tom Leeworthy Real Estate, if you had to choose one GOAT to be the GOAT of all GOATs, who is it? E.g. Rossi, Brady, Roger, Slater, Tiger, Messi, Jordan, Bolt, etc. Do you have an answer? Because like this is a stupid question, a fantastic question, but it's a stupid question because this is a conversation that I've had in the pub after a few beers.
Yeah.
I said, if you had to pick one athlete, who would it be?
I think so. There's a couple of things. I think it's near impossible to compare across eras.
Yep.
Or eras, depending on where you're from. Almost impossible. Because I look at something like, not to try and go off too much of a tangent, but controversial opinion, I don't even think Donald Bradman's the cricket GOAT. Personally, I'm fairly firmly in the Tendulkar camp as the cricket GOAT. That's just me. So, but again, it's like it's near impossible comparing against eras. I think it's so hard to compare against sports, team to individual. I don't. What do you account for the remainder of the team as opposed to a person like a Kelly Slater or a Roger Federer who goes out and does it on their own? Ultimately, and this is going to sound way too fucking wowzerish because of when sitting in the middle of a golf podcast. The more I've had this conversation the last couple of years, the more it's been Tiger.
Yep.
And I think that's because I think there's very few people who would have had to endure what he endured to remain so consistently dominant at the top. There's very few people who have had such a profound impact that the rules of the game have been changed on their account. And yeah, I don't know. We've said it countless times. I don't know that we truly appreciate what we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I think it will only be time, and it will only be time in the absence of him playing that I think it will resonate profoundly on what we've witnessed. But yeah, that seems like too easy an answer. But I think ultimately for me, as I said, the more I have this conversation in recent years, the more clearer it is for mine that it's Tiger.
I agree. I think exactly the same, all the same thoughts. I mean, you can make the case for Jordan and everyone like that. The one that I would say that I think gets slept on a little bit in terms of what they've achieved and a very similar story to Tiger is Serena Williams. I think
absolutely.
You know, the most Grand Slam singles titles in the Open era, male or female, endured a lot of that same shit that that Tiger endured.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think she's definitely one. And look, to be honest, like I probably thought that ahead of seeing King Richard anyway, but going and seeing it and hearing that story, and I know this story is probably
a little bit Mayo, but it's
a little bit Mayo, but it's also probably more Venus focused because people forget like Venus turned pro at the age of I think she was like 17 or whatever and signed a deal with Reebok like worth stupid amounts, but she was winning and beating professionals at the age of 13. Like, so very much focused on Venus, but yeah, I don't know. Serena, I think, gets slept on a little bit.
I agree completely.
Last question, Cam.
Oh, here we go.
Done well. The top 4 holes you want to play in the world. This is one of my favorite questions in here. I'll let you go first if you would like.
Is it too simplistic to say holes 1 through 4 at Arrowtown Golf Club, just outside of Queenstown?
you can sign off now.
No. This, and we might agree officially at the back end of this answer. This was my favorite question.
Yeah,
this was an exceptional question.
I agree.
Mainly because how could you possibly narrow it down to 4? So I approach this in 2 different ways. What are the courses that ultimately I'd like to play at? Ultimately, right? And then how do I get a balance? I don't want to go and choose 4 par 5s. So what I've done is I've chosen a par 3, a drivable par 4,
okay,
a traditional, if not a little bit lengthy, par 4
Okay.
and a par 5.
Right. You've done it way differently to what I have, but that's absolutely great. Go for it.
Where
Hit me
do
with
you
your
want me? Where do you want me to start?
Just go par 3, short par 4, par 4, par 5.
Par 3 is the 5th at Lahinch.
Also one of mine.
Outstanding. I thought
The
it might have
Dell.
been the Dell. So for those unfamiliar, completely blind green. I think it's only 140, 50 meters.
Not even. I don't think.
But completely blind green over an enormous mound.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal hole. Phenomenal hole.
Yeah.
So that's mine, par 3. Drivable par 4. There's a number of options here. Ultimately landed on what I believe is the 10th on the West course and the 8th on the composite course of Royal Melbourne.
Okay.
Drivable par 4, 295, huge bunker that generally takes out the driver.
Yep.
I think from memory, this might have been the hole that Hao Tong Lee was urged not to pull the driver on and did so anyway.
Sounds about
right.
right.
President's Cup. So I desperately want to play Royal Melbourne. There's actually 2 drivable par 4s at Royal Melbourne alone, but that's the storied one. So 10 West, 8 on the composite course at Royal Melbourne. The traditional par 4 might well be the best par 4 in the world.
Okay.
It's the 17th at St Andrews, the old course, the road hole.
Also one of mine.
Yeah. So amazing hole, which is pretty comfortable for me.
You know what I'd like most about 17 at St Andrews?
What's that?
Just to see how far right and into a building I'd be able to hit it. That's what I reckon you and I'd love the most.
Yeah.
Just
how
bang.
profoundly can I cock this up?
Yeah, that's what I'd enjoy. All right,
Yeah.
sorry, your par 5.
Par 5. So this was only ever going to be Augusta for me.
Yeah.
And so really it was down to 13 or 15.
Where'd you go? This would be really interesting.
So ultimately I went with 13.
Okay.
And that's as much to do with the hole because, I mean, I love 15, but I just think that the second shot on 13 with the lie that you face, depending on where you end up, are you able to draw it as a right-hander around the corner? Are you a natural fader of the ball? Do you lose it a bit up to the pine straw? Where you land, if you are able to draw it, like incredibly inconsistent lies. Are you downhill, uphill, side lie? Like, I just think a second shot asks so much. But for me, it was as much about the tee box on 13 may well be one of the most special places in world golf in terms of walking back 30, 40 yards off the green at 12, particularly on, say, a Sunday in contention and being in complete silence. It's you, your caddy, and your 2 playing partners and their caddies, and that's it. And I think that is so unique. In any major venue that we go to, you never get that sort of quiet serenity and privacy. And I'd love to just take that walk off the back of 12 away from Race Creek up to the 13th tee box and just stand there and get the view. And I think ultimately that's probably what nudged it ahead of 15 for me. 15 is a phenomenal hole. I love 15. Particularly that approach shot, down into the amphitheater with the rock wall off to the left. And it's a beautiful hole. But yeah, I just think that walk up to the tee box and the opportunity to stand there and take that in at 13 was what got it across the line. So that's my 4.
Excellent. Well, we've got 2 of the same. So the Dell at Lahinch. I just think also with the Dell, like...
Sorry, not to interrupt, but you said that you approached it completely differently.
Oh,
so
yes.
Maybe if you can just revert back to how you approached it.
I just went with 4 holes that I liked.
So nothing to do with I want to balance the 3s,
Nah.
4s and 5s.
Look,
maybe courses I want to play at.
No. These are all courses I want to play at.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be evident in here. So I've got 3 par 3s and the road hole.
Wow.
So
Okay.
there are some great par 5s in the world. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Absolutely great par 5.
Yeah.
Cape Kidnappers has has a couple of amazing par 5s.
Yeah.
Bandon has some incredible par 5s. Pebbles got some beautiful ones as well. But for me, I come away and am most blown away and most enjoy the architecture and the challenge of par threes. Personally, that's just the way that I like to look at golf courses. I can tell you most par threes of Perth golf courses that I've played, how they're set up, what they're designed to do. I know that's what I really like about. So anyway, that's how I've approached it. What I also like about the Dell at Lahinch is Klondike as well. That kind of just frames it all really nicely. And then it's just a complete blind shot. And in modern terms, no one would design a golf course like that. But it's one of the only times where I think the saying, it's always been like that, and that's how we should keep it. I think, like, that saying that's like, oh yeah, but that's how we did it last year, shits me, right? This is one where it's fine. So I've got the Dell at Lahinch, the road hole at St Andrews. I've then gone 16 at Augusta. I've really debated and laboured over 12 or 16. I just think 16 with Sunday's pin.
I was going to ask you which pins.
Yeah. Sunday's pin. Just like, not that I'd ever have a chance of like getting it close, but the way that it funnels down, like, I think it would just be a lot of fun to have a crack at. And my last one is 7 at Pebble. Just infamous, that little downhill.
Yeah.
I think it's only like 140 maybe off the championship tees. So it's just a very small wedge, but like into the breeze, bunkers everywhere. Like it's just
one of the more unnerving tee shots in world golf.
I had a couple of honourable mentions as well, like 16 at Cypress Point was another one that I liked. 18 at Pebble. I don't know. There are a lot that I really liked. Royal Melbourne, I think it's 5. It was 5 on the composite course. I think it's a par 3. I think it's definitely 5 on the composite course. Is a par 3. That was awesome.
Shokora,
There are a lot of golf holes that I could sit here and rattle off. Maybe one day we'll do our Dream 18. That could be another podcast idea.
That's a good idea. Write that down before we forget. I think maybe we can probably award the pair of Oakley Sunnies.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to that. Warwick Ahern 0-0.
I get the sense that you were engineering that the whole way through, of leaving that to the last question.
So I actually wasn't. But
okay, I give you too much credit.
Yeah, you do.
It was a phenomenal question. Look, they were all phenomenal questions. But Warwick Ahern's taking home the Oakley Sunnies, thanks to Brad McIntosh, the team at Oakley. Thank you to our listeners. We would wrap up very briefly because we've been going for too long. There's a bunch of people to thank. We'll leave the listeners to last. I think first and foremost, the great team at On the Rocks Design. And by team, I mean your wonderful sister, Julia, who does all of our graphic design work, our assets, outstanding.
Yep.
We could have looked, you and I probably would have been on Canva, throwing some shit out on a logo on the socials, and I don't know that we would have made it this far. So thank you to Julia for ongoing support. I think to the more significant people in our lives who I think tolerate you and I pursuing this week in, week out without necessarily understanding the why at times. I think it would be fair to say.
A lot of the time.
Yeah. So to Amy and to Anthea, a massive thank you for their ongoing support. Unofficial producers, very unofficial producers of the 19th Tier podcast. To our listeners, I think we said at the start, the only reason we're still doing it is because they listen. I think, the submission of questions for this evening's episode is proof in the pudding of we have some articulate, intelligent, and ultimately, funny, and ultimately very loyal people who listen to this podcast week in, week out. So thank you to each and every one of you who join us. It makes it special each week. And then finally, my thanks to you, mate. What a ride. 200, yes. I don't think
raise the bat
right back at the start of this episode. I don't think we ever would have imagined getting here when we set out on this journey, but And an enormous part of that is thanks to you, mate. We often joke about the 80-20 split. We joke so much about it, it's becoming a very non-joke at all. So your work I'm glad you said it, because people wouldn't realize the amount of work that goes into putting this together each and every week, and that is primarily you, my friend, and we wouldn't be where we are without you. So it's my absolute pleasure to sit on the opposite side of the country and stare at you through the screen on Zoom every week.
It's been a nice change, hasn't it?
It has been,
the
mate.
old YouTube.
It has been, and I look forward to doing it for another 100. So thank you, Drew. It's been a pleasure.
No, and likewise to yourself. You do a lot of work as well, mate. It's we do joke, but there is a lot of work that goes both ways. Whether it's keeping sponsors happy, and we should thank our sponsors too, of course. Gage Roads, our wonderful beer sponsor. They do wonderful things. Cobra Puma, like the OGs, the genuine
40.
OGs of sponsors.
40. What a man.
He's gallivanting around Europe somewhere. He might plug this one in on the way
Shit
back.
holiday he's having. Unbelievable.
So we got some great stuff lined up with them. Oakley, I've got the kit on today. We've got the Sunnies giving out, Brad and the team. They do some amazing stuff as well. The Golf Collective, probably haven't heard their name for a little while, and that's our fault. But they're just a few guys and girl over here in WA doing some wonderful things. So if you are looking to get a handicap and you don't want to join a club, get in touch with the Golf Collective. And last but certainly not least, Sure Shot or MGI Golf, whichever one you want to rock and roll with. But they have, I think we can comfortably announce that they have furthered their partnership with us, which is renewed the partnership for another year. And I know we touched on some of those video content pieces that we're looking to do, and they've certainly shown an interest in supporting those as well. So we've got 5 fantastic sponsors, and truly this, it does make podcasting so much easier when you've got a bit of income coming in, and we're not having to dip our hand in our pocket to pay for Zoom subscriptions and hosting subscriptions and all the other shit that we've got to pay for. So.
No, it is, mate. It's excellent. It is. That is it. That's 200 in the bank. Plenty more to come. Obviously, we're not all that far away from the next major. There's some events. I don't think we'll be too keyed into the Zurich this week.
Wouldn't have thought so.
A little team event. It's cute.
Wouldn't have thought so.
And
we might be having a week off next week as well. We haven't discussed this, but you're away. Are you away?
Yeah,
we might be having a week off. We're not sure.
Maybe.
Of course, the Blitz Golf is on Tuesday at WA Golf Club. So I might look to do a few little vox pops, as they say, to do an audio.
Love a little voxy.
Yeah, an audio episode, perhaps.
That'd be good.
Audio only.
And of course, the guys are heading over there for the final few tournaments, the WA swing, and then, of course, up to the NT to finish off the season. So still plenty of action on our doorstep here in Australia that we'll keep you abreast of in the coming weeks as well. But we'll see. You might hear us next week. You might not. Mystery. Who knows? All right, Drewster. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks, mate.
I'll see you when I'm looking at you.